So, the reason why we've assembled on this bonus stream on this Friday is because we're going to have the podcast later today with Farfa, and we're going to have Jess as a guest on the podcast to talk about her decision to leave Yu-Gi-Oh! This entire thing, I feel like it warrants a discussion at the moment, simply because I feel like, at least for my personal perception in recent weeks, there's been a little bit more negativity than usual. Because there always is, there always is some sort of negativity. Like there's always voices, complaining about things. That's very natural. And I feel like this all culminated in this basically sparked a whole nother like level of discussion, and things are happening like people making thumbnails like this. Why are Yu-Gi-Oh's best players quitting the game? When in this thumbnail, there's literally one person that has announced quitting the game, which is Jess, right? No one else in this thumbnail has even said anything remotely close to, I'm gonna quit the game. Not me, right? So I feel like people are going a little ham on this situation, maybe more than warranted, but I have not actually seen Jess's video yet, so I will watch it now, see what's behind it, see what the reasonings are, maybe discuss with you guys a little bit about those reasons. And just in general, this is basically me just getting the context that I need, because we're gonna have her on the podcast later today. So let's hop right in. I look, if I had to guess, I would imagine it's probably a mix of the format right now or pricing, right? Those are the two main critique points, which I guess we'll just see how it goes.
I am quitting competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! And so are half of or most of your favorite players. And there's a bunch of reasons for this.
I want to interrupt 9 seconds in, and I don't believe half of or most or all of your favorite players is even remotely close to true. There are people quitting the game. There always are people quitting the game. We are not even remotely close to a situation where half of or almost all of your favorite players are quitting the game. Unless you have a list of favorite players at home, and that list is Jessica Robinson and no one else. In that case, yes, all of your favorite players are quitting the game. Ding Kang Pham, Gabriel Susi. Okay, so to my knowledge, Gabriel Susi is taking a break because he's exhausted from the Worlds race and stuff like that. And Ding Kang Pham is playing a lot of Lorcana, which is fine. But even if you add those two to the list, then that is still not all of your favorite Yu-Gi-Oh players. So I don't know. I feel like we're starting it off with a little bit of over-exaggeration, but okay.
I'm going to go through my personal reasons, and yeah, we'll have a bit of a discussion, because I think there's a lot of things that would need to change to get me back to playing this game. And yeah, I'd like to clarify very quickly, I am still going to be doing content stuff. When I'm back from my little hiatus break, I will be back to doing content, but I will not be attending or competing at events. I will not be at YCS Bologna, I will not be at YCS Lille, and I won't be at any competitive events unless something drastically changes, which I highly, highly doubt. Right, so why is everyone quitting and why am I quitting? I guess I'll go from a personal perspective.
Look, the thing that I don't understand is I don't feel like it's necessary to make it seem like everyone is quitting. I feel like it's completely reasonable to just say, I'm quitting and here are my reasons. I don't know why we're making it look like everyone is quitting. That's the one thing I don't understand. Like, why not just make a video and be like, hey, I'm quitting. These are my reasons. If you agree with them, you'll resonate with it. Like, why say everyone's quitting? Like, that's not happening.
I've got a bunch of reasons. I haven't. So this is unscripted, Jess. We're just going raw because I feel like that's the best way to get my perspective across. Let's go through it. So, the direction of game design. I've played for 10 years, and the reason I've played for 10 years is I love this game. Mechanically, it was really complex. The card pool, there was so many interesting things I felt like I could do and discover. And yeah, it excited me. I enjoyed the game a lot, and I kept playing. And it doesn't excite me anymore. With the way card design is going, like increased, like more blanket effects, like more charmies, like Dimensional Shifter, Spooky Dogwood, and Spooky Dogwood time rules is like a whole thing. It just doesn't appeal to me. And then when you combine that with the increasing power level, so the first big point I have is to do with power level with cards like Fiendsmith. So the Fiendsmith engine recently released, we saw it in play at North American Nationals and European Championships, and we also noticed the consistency of top players doing well decreased massively. Especially for European Championships, we saw hardly any of our like big top players actually in the top cut of that event. And I think that's because of the power level. Because we have the blanket cards just auto win like Dimensional Shifter. And the power level of cores like Fiendsmith making the game so RNG dependent, like making the game more and more RNG dependent. It discourages you from trying as hard, to be honest.
Okay, where do I start? It's weird because fundamentally I agree with some things that were said. I disagree with other things. I would agree that the current format is not the best format we've had, to say it lightly. I personally am not a huge fan of the current format. And the thing about this whole thing is that I do not feel like basically the way I view this as someone who's played this game for, at this point, I think it's like 20 years and competitively for well over 15, that you as a player, you never resonate with every single Yu-Gi-Oh format. That is not something that's realistic whatsoever. There are going to be formats that you will not like, right? There are going to be formats where the percentage of the better player winning is lower than in other formats, right? That is always something that happens, right? Like we've had that in the 2000s, in the 2010s, you know, the formats like this keep coming back, right? When you're playing a card game that keeps developing, keeps releasing new cards and all that kind of stuff, then it is just inevitable that some formats are going to be worse than others. Some formats are going to be better than others. And this is a me personal thing. I personally don't agree with quitting Yu-Gi-Oh because you don't like a format. And I feel like calling it the direction that game design is going is also... I feel like we're not at that point yet where you can say like, oh, it's been like this for far too long, I don't think it'll ever change. Like, that's not the case. Like, we've had formats that were completely different in playstyles in the literal 1 or 2 years, and the game has been awful for years now. See, if you think that, then why are you here? Because I'm pretty sure no one here thinks that. I don't think that. I disagree. I wholeheartedly disagree that the game has been awful for years. We had great formats in the last 1 or 2 years. Great formats. A lot of them. Like, a lot of really, really good formats. The game has not been awful for years. Before Snake Eyes was at full power, like, people are calling last year's YCS Bologna a great format. Even the Cash Tira formats were pretty good gameplay wise. The Sprite and Tier formats were all pretty good. Even Ishizu Tier, gameplay wise, was pretty good. It was Tier 0, but it was a good Tier 0 format. Like, I will simply not agree that the game has been bad for years now. Literally not. I don't think that's true whatsoever. And if you think that's true, I don't need to change your opinion on this, right? But it's like, if you think the game has been awful for years, then maybe Yu-Gi-Oh is just not something that you enjoy, right? Because Yu-Gi-Oh is the way it is. The game functions the way it functions. There are tons of people out there that are enjoying it. And if you feel like the game has been awful for years, then you do not need to play it, right? Which is fine. But from what she's saying, I don't feel like her opinion is that the game has been awful for years. Right? And I don't know. Part of me also finds it funny that we're criticizing the current format, like Snake Eye and Fiendsmith combos, one card combos, and all that kind of stuff, when we've been playing Plants forever. But that's just a minor thing. But yeah, like, if you think the current format is not great, I would agree with you. But I personally have never, I obviously have never quit Yu-Gi-Oh because a format was bad. I think there's nothing wrong with taking a break. Like, if the current format is not for you, by all means, take a break. Voice your criticism as well. That's another thing that you can always do, right? In a like, you know, good manner or whatever. I'm missing the right word. But like criticism, I feel like is always welcome. And if you think another game is like better suited for you or more fun, then by all means you can play that other game as well, right? But it's just like the whole process of quitting Yu-Gi-Oh because a format is bad, I don't resonate with it. I personally don't agree. But yeah.
Or it's just me from trying as hard, because the more, I know everyone always makes that, oh, Yu-Gi-Oh is super luck based, but like, if a game is becoming more and more luck based and it becomes harder and harder to top consistently, it reduces motivation to play, because you could be the best player ever, but you're less and less likely to do well because
the last time I haven't topped, I'm checking, I need to go back. I think it was Euros last year. Yeah, Euros last year. Been a year. Oh yeah, Dortmund. Yeah, Dortmund. Right. It's been a while though.
That's just how the game is and how the game feels like it's becoming. Also, there's a bunch of other things. I think that...
No need to brag. No, it's literally answering to that argument. Like, the thing is, no matter how bad you think Yu-Gi-Oh is still incredibly rewarding. This has not changed in recent years. And cards like Dimension Shifter are highly unlikely to kick you out of a tournament if you are well prepared for that tournament. I got shifted at Euros like 5 or 6 times. Like, statistically, you play against a shifter deck, they will have shifter in 1 out of 3 games. So if your deck auto loses to shifter, you still have 2 other games where you statistically won't get shifted. Even if you lose a match to 2 shifters, even if we lose a match to 2 shifters, that still does not make it impossible for you to top. Like, there's always situations in Yu-Gi-Oh where luck plays a role and you need luck to top an event. That has always been the case. And the current format is, I'm not saying the current format is great. I just don't agree that it's terrible and that it makes it like impossible for good players to top.
And with a couple of other points, such as pricing and Euros. European Championships was a huge one for me, because it felt like there was no interest whatsoever in the tournament. Like, if you look online, I looked online after the tournament, or like the morning after, and there's just no interest or hype about the event. Everyone's just, okay, Shifter will try me. No one, or Fiendsmith stuff. The hype is gone. Especially in comparison to last year, or even not European championships, even events like
it's maybe it's just me, but I just don't resonate with a lot of these reasonings. Like, what are we making? What are we basing this off? Like, my feed was full with posts about Euros. I don't know. Like, how is it different from past events? Like, the tournament happens, people watch it. The week after, people talk about it. I don't know. Like, what are we basing this off of?
YCS Bologna. The hype was just there. People were excited about the game. People liked what they saw. And just all the hype and excitement is gone. And on top of that, prizing. Prizing is prizing is one of the most frustrating ones because it feels like Konami don't care. The format is becoming increasingly bad, and I don't like the direction of card design and the direction that we're heading in. And if you combine that with the fact that I can put hundreds of hours into...
Feels like she's venting, which is fine though, right? It's her video on quitting the game. I'm not saying she's not allowed to vent. All I'm doing is putting the things into my perspective, right? I'm just saying, like, whether I agree with certain things or not, right? I'm not saying, like, you can't say that stuff. Like, if that's your opinion, that's how you feel, like you have all the right in the world to say that. Okay.
To, like, perfecting my deck for a YCS. Go, like, 11-1, let's say, in Swiss. Lose first round of Top Cut. And I get a playmat that's impossible to sell. Or let's say I do go to a YCS and I do win I top and I win the first 2 rounds of Top Cut. I'm in top 8. I get a Nintendo Switch, which doesn't even cover the cost of travel and definitely does not compensate me or make me feel cared about for the hundreds of hours of gameplay and testing I put in to be prepared for this event. It just feels like I'm not cared about as a player. And I think a lot of people feel like that.
I know that this statement, at least the statement that a lot of people feel like this, is true. Once again, I have a different and therefore more controversial take on the thing that I've said a couple of times in the past, but I am very well aware that the way I think about this is not the way everyone thinks about this, and that most people will not agree with me on this, but this is something that I have gotten used to in my 15 years of playing. Very simply said, I do still agree that it is kind of sad, and it would be super easy to fix by giving players some more exclusive pricing, like special like versions of cards and stuff like that when they top an event. At the end of the day, Yu-Gi-Oh is a hobby. You play Yu-Gi-Oh as a hobby, and I personally think from a mentality perspective, it is not healthy to approach your hobby and choose your hobby based on, like, what money do I put in, what do I get out, right? Like, oh, my deck costs 800 euros. I need to go to this event and make this money back. I simply don't agree that this is something that should be affecting your mental when you choose a hobby. A hobby is something that you decide to spend your free time on, right? No one forces you to pick this hobby. And there are tons of other hobbies out there that will also not make you a ton of money. If your hobby is, I don't freaking know what the example is, but if your hobby is like, I don't know, going on like bicycle tours or whatever, right? Like you golf, I don't know, dude, but like the stuff, the equipment and whatever is also hella expensive. Whatever it is, you know, there's a bunch of hobbies, and most of them don't make you money. Whether it's collecting, whether it's going out somewhere where it takes equipment, whether it's whatever it is, right? You won't hear a passionate collector of something or whatever. You won't hear them complain about, oh, my hobby is so expensive and I don't get anything back, right? There are some hobbies where at a professional level you will make a lot of money. There are some hobbies where you don't. And I personally don't believe that people choose their hobbies based on how much money you make with it. And I think if you do, I think it's the wrong motivation. All that being said, I still think it would be nice to feel more cared about, especially because I know that it wouldn't be that hard, right? Like, for example, creating a, let's say, ultimate rare Ash Blossom for the top 32 of a YCS would not cost Konami much, but it would pay out in huge ways for the people that make Top Cut at a YCS, right? And so, like, I personally, this does not affect my mental at all. As someone who is lost in top 64, top 32, top 16, top 8, top 4 finals of YCSs and nationals countless of times throughout my life, I am one of the people that would have benefited the most from if they had done something like this years ago, right? Like, if they had made topping YCSs more rewarded, like in terms of pricing, I would have made tons from that, right? So I feel like I am one of the people that can say something about this, right? The prices are not great. The prices are not great. At the same time, expecting the prices to be great, I think, is the wrong attitude when choosing your hobby. If you think Yu-Gi-Oh is a better card game than other card games, but you go to play the other card game because their prices are better, then why are you doing that? Why are you spending your free time? Why are you letting your free time be dictated by how much money it makes, right? That's what you go to work for. You know, that's why you have jobs and stuff like that. Those are the ones where you're being paid to spend time doing something that maybe if you weren't paid for it, you wouldn't do it, right? Like, why are you carrying that over to your private life, to your hobbies and stuff like that, you know? And I am aware that, you know, that is something that maybe not everyone can afford to play Yu-Gi-Oh, because it is an expensive hobby, and I wish it wasn't, right? After all that being said, I think it would be nice if it was possible, right? It'd be a nice thing. I'm just saying it is not a requirement for choosing a hobby. It's not a requirement for choosing a hobby, and if I think it's kind of sad if you let the way you spend your free time get dictated by money as well, right? I'm not saying it wouldn't be good. I'm not saying it wouldn't be nice. I'm not saying I wouldn't appreciate it. I'm just saying, like, if it affects your mentality in that way, I think you have the wrong approach. And I think this is something that I hear that very, very frequently from the best of the best of all time, is that they have never chosen this hobby because of the pricing or whatever. Like, the stuff you get for winning a YCS is not what it's about whatsoever. So while I do resonate with these arguments, while I do understand these arguments, I wholeheartedly agree that the prizes should be better and could be better. I don't ever think this should be your reason to quit or choose a hobby in the first place. But yeah.
We can see players quitting in their masses and switching to other card games like Volcana, Pokemon, Magic, One Piece, because the pricing is better. It does feel like the company cares a bit more. And then on top of that, even outside of pricing, you have things like Pokemon promote their World Championships, like World Championship players, like more like the Worlds decks, post-Worlds. Magic have the Hall of Fame.
Playing Yu-Gi-Oh at a competitive level takes as much effort and dedication like a real-life job. The fact that you can't even make your money back is extremely frustrating, and because it's a competitive environment, it's just a hobby rhetoric does not apply. Well, I don't agree with you. I think at the end of the day, even playing Yu-Gi-Oh competitively is a hobby. There are no professional Yu-Gi-Oh players out there. It doesn't exist. It's a made-up construct. There is no one out there who is paying you to be a Yu-Gi-Oh player. Like, simple as that.
And just systems like that where it feels like you're encouraged to be competitive. And in Yu-Gi-Oh it feels like you're not encouraged to be competitive because you're not rewarded for being good at the game. Like, they don't care if you're good at the game.
Here's the thing, right? this is a very deep discussion, right? You are not rewarded for being good at this game is also something that I don't agree with. I feel very rewarded. Not financially, but I feel like the experience that I have going to an event, meeting the people that like know me because I am good at this game, that come up to me, or like even the friends I've made over the last 20 years and all that stuff is extremely rewarding in so many different ways, just not financially, right? There's so much reward in it for me personally that I care about that I just feel like it would have, like, had I made the decision to quit 10 years ago because the prizes were not great, I'm thinking of all the things I would have missed, all the friends I wouldn't have made, all the experiences I wouldn't have had. I wouldn't even have met my fiance. Like, there's so many things that this game has given me that financials don't matter to me. It is not about that. And that is what makes me the most frustrated about this discussion, right? Like, this is not something that I think should matter when you pick your hobby. It's not what it's about. That is all I have to say about this point. I understand what people are saying. I just feel like the conclusions you draw from, like, we can all agree that the prices are not great, and some people choose to, like, the conclusion to draw from that is, well, then I won't play it. My personal conclusion is a different one. I think you can do stuff in life that doesn't make you money and it can still be worthwhile. And if you don't agree with that, I find that sad, but that is my take on that.
Like, I guess one of the examples that pushes it for me is I topped the World Championships last year. I made top 8 and then I lost first round of top 8. I walked out empty-handed. I made it to the highest level. If you can make it to the highest level of the game and then top the event at the highest level of the game and walk out empty-handed, it does leave a bit of a sour taste about...
No, that's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy because it's not true. Because everyone at Worlds gets a whole bunch of stuff. So what we're basically complaining about right now is I went to Worlds like these 28 other people and I made top 8, but I didn't get more than 10th place. I felt like I deserved more than the person that got 20th place at the World Championship, right? Because let me tell you, the entry prizes for the World Championships, even ignoring the fact that you win travel and all that, let's say the travel and accommodation for Worlds is part of your prizing for winning the European Championship, right? Okay. If you get to the World Championships, the entry prizes alone are easy 4 digits, and it does not start with a 1. It depends. It's still stuff that you need to, like, get rid of and all that kind of stuff and find people that want it. But the entry prizing, the stuff that you get for making it to Worlds is not bad. It's like the one tournament a year where I feel like there's no reason to complain, because you go into it like, if you get to top 4 and you win a prize card, if you are deciding to get rid of that, that's a lot of money. And the literally the entry stuff that people get at Worlds is a lot, right? Could they have top 8 prizing? Yes, they could. Yes, they could have additional prizes for top 8. Absolutely. Would it feel good to have something when you make top 8 and lose in top 8? Yes. But it's not fair to say you're walking out empty-handed, because everyone who goes to Worlds does not walk away empty-handed. It is simply not the case.
How the company cares about their players.
Cutting the top 8 should probably mean top 8 should get prizing. See, I don't disagree with it. I don't disagree with that statement, but I also don't... I just feel like we're making valid points, but we're just over-exaggerating them for some reason. I guess because we want to feel understood, because we want to vent and all that kind of stuff. I get it. But, like, on the other hand, I feel like the World Championship is such a short tournament, right? There's 28 of the best in the world. I'm not sure if 8th place deserves more than 9th place. Does 8th place really deserve more than 15th place? Like, is it really... I don't know. Like, I'm not sure. If they cut it at top 8, yes. I mean, look, I don't disagree. I'm just saying, like, I feel like we're over exaggerating. Empty-handed is not the case. It's like the entry prizes for worlds. It's always up to who you find, who wants it, and stuff like that. But usually we're talking at least 3 to 4. Okay. So I don't know if empty-handed is the right way to say that.
There are other reasons, of course. There's a couple. Actually, one point I want to bring on YCS is it feels more rewarding to play locals. Like, spending hundreds of pounds and hundreds of hours to go to a YCS top, and where I could go to a 10-man locals, and it feels more rewarding to do well at that because of the prizing. Like, that sounds ridiculous. That coming top 32 in a 2,500 player event feels worse than getting first at a 10-man event. Like, come on.
I don't know, I just don't resonate with this. I don't resonate with most of what's being said right now. Like, I think if you feel that way, then your mentality is not for, like, competing in a game. And I don't even think your mentality is made to compete in a different game. Like, I just feel like that's like just such a weak competitive mentality. If you just completely base the value of your experience at a tournament of how much you get from, like, financially, right? Like, if you think winning a 10-man locals is more rewarding than topping a YCS because of the prizing, this is highly subjective, 100%. But if that's your mentality, you're not made for playing competitively. Like, I don't think so.
I'm not going to be stopping playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Entirely. I'm still going to play Yu-Gi-Oh! Casually. It's still mechanically the game that I fell in love with. But I'm done competitively. I'll still be making some content about Yu-Gi-Oh! But I'm also going to make my content a bit more personalized when I come back to it. So it'll be more focused on, well,
I love how Pack is in chat. Like, I'm never quitting. I need to win 10 more switches.
and competitive.
See, unironically, that's the spirit, though. Like, I think it's fine to be upset about the pricing and all that. I think, like, but like, you just don't let it get to you. You know, like, you're not playing this game for the pricing. You're not playing it for that, and I think Pack would agree with that.
Yeah, because I've lost all interest. Like, they've lost me. There are other factors as well. Things like hate and negativity in the community. Yu-Gi-Oh! Is notorious for it, and it does take its toll. I think in comparison to other card games, where other card games just feel more welcoming to players. Don't get me wrong, I love the Yu-Gi-Oh! Community, and like, I have had an amazing year, and I'm super grateful to everyone who supported me and my community. But yeah, seeing the general negativity within Yu-Gi-Oh! Is another discouraging factor. But yeah, so to conclude, design and cards becoming so powerful that the game is becoming more and more RNG dependent, and players are able to top less consistently. Add to that prizing, so you're not encouraged to top in the first place, and just generally being, like, you're not being encouraged to do well in the first place. The combination of those factors, and then it feels more rewarding to enter a locals. that is the reason that myself and many, many Yu-Gi-Oh players are just leaving the game. And
I don't know.
I think, although
I was at Euros. That thing was sold out, and there was a hell of a crowd for the last, like the leftover tickets on Friday. It does not feel like this game is suffering at all.
Yugioh has always had these dooming moments where it's like, oh, the game's over, Links are gonna kill the game. I don't think right now is going to kill the game.
Nope.
But I think irreparable damage has already been done to the player base. Like, I thought I'd always be, like, the last man standing.
Not with that attitude.
For Yu-Gi-Oh! Because even when people were dooming about other factors, I still love the game. But they've gotten me. So, who knows? We'll have to see. I don't think this is the end of Yu-Gi-Oh! But I think this is... Unless something drastically changes, I do think this is a step in a very, very bad direction. Anyway, that's it from me. I look forward to seeing everyone in future content. And yeah, stick around.
All right. Look, I think that the points being made are valid. I think most of the arguments, like the core of the arguments, well, some of them I didn't really get, like the Euros didn't feel like anyone cared about it. I don't really understand that one. But I think it's a matter of we're pointing out things that the community can agree on, like the current format is not great, right? Or the pricing is not great. Those are things that I'm not arguing against, right? What I'm arguing against is the conclusions that you draw for yourself from those arguments, right? It's not that we have a fundamental disagreement of... I'm not sitting here saying like, oh, the current Yu-Gi-Oh format is great or the pricing is insane, you know? You can't complain about that at all. I'm not saying any of that. Like, all of the points are valid, right? I think what everyone needs to do for themselves, and it's a very subjective thing that everyone needs to think about what it means for themselves, right? Like, I've been aware that the pricing has been not great for years. It's been like this forever, right? But I've just never felt like that was a reason to quit, because I never felt like that was the reason I started playing in the first place. That was never the reason why I enjoyed this game. It was never the reason why I kept playing. It was never the reason why I felt rewarded, right? Like when I win a YCS, even when I win, I've never even made money from it, because I've been, like, in recent years at least, I've been keeping my stuff, you know, I've been keeping the prizes and all that kind of stuff. Of course, I'm happy that I even have the ability, I'm fortunate enough to make that decision, right? But like, even winning a YCS did not feel rewarding because, like, oh, now I made thousands and thousands of bucks from selling that prize card or whatever. Like, I kept it. So the only thing I feel like that's left for everyone is to make their own decisions based on the informations that we do agree on, right? We do agree on prices are not great, current format is not great. I just think it's as simple as current format is not great, but that's not often, but like that's something that's regularly repeats itself in Yu-Gi-Oh's history, right? Like we've had bad formats, we've had great formats. Like, it keeps happening. There is no general direction into terrible. That is not something that exists. Even no matter how much you make it sound like that, there's no direction into the downfall of Yu-Gi-Oh. It's not happening. There's gonna be good formats again. There's gonna be bad formats again. You either stick with it through the bad formats or you don't. And the pricing has always been like this and has never been my motivation to play. If it's something that discourages you, that's okay. That's on you to do that. I feel like I've explained well enough why it was never the driving factor or the deciding factor for me personally, right? It was never an argument for me to keep playing or quit the game of like the prize is getting better or whatever, right? Or not feeling rewarded. At the end of the day, it's also partially on yourself, I feel like, to decide what is rewarding for you, right? Like, it's it is something that if you top a YCS with a pet deck of yours, or let's say you get fortunate enough to win a YCS, that is something that can feel super rewarding based on so many other factors than just the financial aspects, right? Like I said, the experiences I've had with this game, the people I've met, the friends I've made, the community I've built here as well, like all these kind of things are so rewarding to me, even disregarding any sort of financial aspects, right? So this is the kind of thing, and I don't want this to sound like the stuff that she's saying is not valid, because this is nothing against her stance on things. Like, it's just like we have a different understanding of what to make out of those arguments, right? Because the arguments are valid, right? The things are saying is that, right? Easy to say if you are rich. Well, first of all, I am not rich. You have no idea about my financial situation. And I've been playing this game for 20 years, and I've been streaming for 2 out of those 20. So would you please kindly shut up about that argument? It is a non-argument. I could very well be working a completely different job, and I would still be traveling to YCSs and Euros and all that. This, what I'm doing right now, is my job. When I go to the European Championship, I don't make any money, right? I pay for my travel, for my hotel, for my cards, and I don't make anything back from it, right? And when I started building a community on Twitch, it was literally when I finished university for software engineering, where like I had an offer to work for like 7K a month or something, and I decided to stream instead to like 200 people, okay? So this is the kind of dedication that I've put forward towards this game, not asking for any sort of like financial payback or whatever. Like it has nothing to do with that. There are decisions in life that you can make that are not completely driven by financial decisions and the financial factors. And I think it'd be much healthier if sometimes you made decisions based on what makes you happy instead of just what makes you money, okay? Game is expensive. Game is expensive. Game has always been expensive. I'm not saying it's not an expensive hobby, and I'm also not saying the prices are great. And that's the thing I want to get across the most. I think this is not about disagreeing on the fundamentals of the argument. The fundamentals of the argument are very solid. You know, prices could be better, cards could be cheaper, format could be better. All that, it's all that is true. The question is, what kind of conclusions do you draw from that for yourself? Right? And that is a very subjective process, very individual process. Of course, like whenever you are doing something, you are convinced that you are doing the right thing. Look, I am convinced that the way I'm looking at this is for me the correct and more healthy way, right? Like mentally, I feel like it's always been better for me to say like, screw the prizes, I don't care, I don't play it for those, because like how sad would I have been if I had played this game for so long and cared about the prizes, you know? Like, yeah, so obviously I'm convinced that the way I'm looking at it is better for my mental, right? You don't need to agree with it, and if you don't, then I think it's completely reasonable to quit Yu-Gi-Oh for those reasons, right? You must agree that when a hobby becomes prohibitively expensive and offers you nothing in return, it detracts from the enjoyment. See, I would agree to that if it was even remotely true, right? Because what you're saying, like, inherently in what you're saying lies the problem, right? You're saying it offers nothing in return. I feel like we've talked about this for like 30 minutes now, why that is not true. Nothing in return is simply not true, right? Like, if you... what do you mean a hobby gives you nothing in return? Like, it's mind-blowing to me how you look at it through one lens and one lens only. Like, you have one view on this hobby for your free time, and you're like, well, how much money does it give it to me? Is this the stock market? Like, if you only care about money, yeah, don't play Yu-Gi-Oh. If you let every single action in your life be dictated by how much money you make, then I guess you're working 24/7. Enjoy your life. I don't know what to say. I'm working right now. Yeah, I can tell by how active you are in my chat that you are at work right now. I think a middle ground where your efforts are rewarded with more than just pride could be reached, to be honest. I've never disagreed that it wouldn't be easy to increase the prize pool or make it feel more rewarding. That is the thing. I keep reiterating over this. The prizes could be better and the prizes should be better. What I disagree with is the conclusion you draw from, well, I won't play this game then. Right? This is I've never said the prices are great. I've never said the prices are enough. I've never said the prices should not be better. What I'm saying is you should not quit a game that you think is good or gives you so many things otherwise, like friends and experiences and time and other things that are very rewarding, because you're not getting the money back, right? This is what I'm trying to get across for like, I feel like 45 minutes now. And everyone is like, well, my deck costs $800 and I win a YCS and it's or I top a YCS and I only get 100 back. Simple math, not worth it. People have the choice to do what's best for them. Yeah, and if you think it's best for you to not play Yu-Gi-Oh, then don't play Yu-Gi-Oh. But best for you is not only tied to money, at least for me personally. When I think about what is best for me, I don't, like, every single decision does not mean I'm min-maxing on money, right? I'm not like my fiance is like, do you want to go out for dinner tonight? And I'm like, no, that's not best for me because I could be cooking cheaper at home. I will not enjoy this evening with you tonight because best for me is if I cook for cheaper at home. I will just open a can of soup and eat it at home because that is best for me. And in the same vein, I don't think it's best for me to play a card game that I don't enjoy as much. And this does not mean that you can't enjoy other games more. You can. If you play Lorcana, One Piece, Magic, Pokemon, and you are having a better time playing that game, completely disregarding the prizes, right? Like just like if you think one of those games is more fun, play it by all means. They're probably great games. I've played some of them. They're fun. They're not Yu-Gi-Oh for me. They won't replace Yu-Gi-Oh for me. And there is no amount of better prizing in the world that would make me go to a like Lorcana event over a YCS, right? Like if I want to maximize the money I make on a weekend, I'll start streaming. And there are weekends where I work. There are weekdays where I work, and there are some days where I just do what I enjoy the most, and that is going to a YCS and not to a different kind of card game tournament. For me, if that card game for you is a different card game, that's also fine. You know, like I feel like there's always this kind of need to convince others that what you're doing is right, you know? Like, it's not like Ding Kang Pham can start playing Lorcana and just be happy with it. No, he has to tell his followers on Twitter 5 times a day how much better it is than Yu-Gi-Oh! Like, look how much fun I'm having. Oh, yeah. I'm just trying to bridge time before we start the podcast. Josh is rampant today. No, I've said this to Ding Kang Pham before. Been a running gag for a while. Look, you gotta understand, Yu-Gi-Oh is a thing that I have dedicated like 20 years of my life to, and I regret nothing about that. And so obviously I react a little, I don't know, I do not like when people shit talk this game, right? I appreciate when people give constructive criticism, but when I feel like people are just hating for the sake of hating, or when I disagree with what they're saying, I do get protective over it, right? And this is what's happening right now. Basically, if I feel like you are critiquing Yu-Gi-Oh to improve it, or to basically give constructive criticism, I really like that. That's what I try to do a lot as well, right? Like when you go through my videos and my reactions and all that kind of stuff, it's not all positive. There's stuff that I genuinely critique, stuff that I say should be better, should get improved. What I just don't like is when I feel like people are hating for the sake of hating, or when people are hating for the sake of, I don't know, because it clicks better, or because the more controversial takes will get more engagement and all that kind of stuff, right? I don't think she's hating. Oh no, that's not what I meant. I'm not saying Jess was doing exactly that. This is mostly about my interactions with chat. Like I said, I think the points that Jessica made are valid. I personally disagree with the conclusions she's drawn for herself, but I do think, well, like not all the points were valid, but like the majority, like pricing is not great, the current format is not great, that stuff, I agree with it. I just disagree with the I'm quitting because of it, you know, like that we've talked about that for the last like 30 minutes of like how you can I think you can agree on a statement and then still draw different conclusions from it. You know, that's what I'm trying to say. It's funny how I feel like trying to be positive in this community is sometimes harder than trying to be negative. Like, it feels like whenever you're negative about something, you get so many people that resonate with you. When you're saying anything remotely positive, it's like, oh, Konami employee, dude. It's crazy you say that. You're so delusional. Stop saying positive stuff. The YouTube video would click so much better if I just hated on the game for 20 minutes, but it is not. It is just not my opinion.